The brain is a beautiful organ that has the ability to both terrify and amaze us. I have worked with this organ for over 20 years as a neurologist, and I've been lucky enough to see some amazing things. Today, I want to tell you about one of my favorite tricks that the brain plays on us. It's a trick that we all play on ourselves, and it's a trick that can make the difference between a good day and a bad day, a good week and a bad week, or even a good life and a bad life. And it doesn't cost anything to do. So why don't you stick around and let me show you how it works. Hi, I'm a neurologist, and I make videos that are meant to educate and entertain people who are interested in the brain, the mind, and behavior. The trick that I'm going to talk to you about today is really based on what we know about attention. Attention is a very basic function of the brain. In fact, attention is something that we have to use just to be awake. You see, when we are awake, there's a lot going on around us and inside our heads. There's millions of things that could capture our attention, but at any given moment, we can only pay attention to a few things. And the way that we decide which things to pay attention to is by having expectations. Expectations tell our brain what to look for, and therefore, what to pay attention to. So here's an example of how this works. Imagine that I say to you that you will get a phone call in the next 5 minutes. Your auditory system, which is made up of your ears and all the neural connections that go from your ears to your brain, is going to start paying more attention to sounds that might be coming from a phone. Now, if instead I told you that you would get a text message in the next 5 minutes, your visual system, which is made up of your eyes and all the neural connections that go from your eyes to your brain, is going to start paying more attention to visuals, such as the shape and color of a message popping up on a screen. Now imagine that instead of telling you that you'll get a phone call or a text message, I simply say to you that something interesting is going to happen in the next 5 minutes. Well, now your brain goes into a state of constant vigilance, because anything could happen in those 5 minutes, and anything could grab your attention. So basically, what I'm saying is that our emotions follow our expectations. Now you may be asking yourself, okay, doctor, what does this have to do with me? Well, let me give you an example. Let's say that you have 2 children. One child is always getting into trouble and breaking things. The other child is always doing really well, bringing home good grades, and helping out around the house. So you have every reason to expect that the first child is going to break another vase or get hurt while playing, and that the second child is going to help out around the house and bring home good grades again. So when you interact with the first child, you become anxious and tense up, bracing for impact. And when you interact with the second child, you are relaxed and feel a sense of pride. Now think about what happens to the children in this situation. The first child, who is always breaking things, stops breaking things and starts doing well because the parent is anxious and tense when interacting with him. And the second child, who is always doing well, starts acting out and getting in trouble because the parent is relaxed and not paying attention. So this is how our emotions and expectations influence our reality. We actually create our own reality by the way that we think and by the emotions that we have. In fact, this happens all the time. For example, if you're expecting to have a bad day, you're probably going to have a bad day because you're going to interpret everything that happens to you through the lens of a bad day. If someone cuts you off in traffic, you'll think to yourself, see, I told you were going to have a bad day. Of course, you're going to have a bad day. That person just cut you off. So basically, by expecting to have a bad day, you set yourself up for failure. Now, I know what you're thinking. What am I supposed to do? Am I just supposed to sit around all day and wait for good things to happen? No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we have to be aware of the trick that our brains play on us. We have to recognize that our emotions and our expectations influence our reality, and we have to use that to our advantage. There's a famous quote that says, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten. So if you want something different, you have to do something different. And doing something different can be as simple as changing the way that you think. I'm not saying that this is easy to do, but it is possible, and it takes practice. But the good news is that once you learn how to do it, you can use it every day to improve your life. Here's the deal on how to handle your emotions better. First off, get in tune with what you're feeling and why. Emotions come from our thoughts, right? So, if you want to switch up your emotions, you've got to change your thinking. Next, be picky about your thoughts. Seriously, think about what's running through your mind and whether it's lifting you up or dragging you down. Those negative thoughts, they can make you feel like you can't do something or that it's impossible. On the flip side, positive thoughts boost your mood and help you believe you can achieve your goals. Now, here's a twist. Sometimes those negative thoughts can actually push you to work harder. Like thinking I'm not good enough might motivate you to study more. But let's be real, those thoughts are still harmful because they chip away at yourself. Also, focus your attention on what you want to grow. Think of your attention as a spotlight. It can only shine on a few things at once. If you concentrate on what you want to develop, that's what will flourish. But if you dwell on what you don't want, guess what? That'll grow too. Lastly, be kind to yourself. Changing your thought patterns isn't a walk in the park. It takes time and practice. Every time you choose a positive thought over a negative one, you're rewiring your brain and building new pathways for better thinking in the future. Keep at it. So remember, The brain is a beautiful organ that has the ability to both terrify and amaze us. And one of the most amazing things that it can do is create our own reality by the way that we think and by the emotions that we have. So choose your thoughts carefully. Put your attention on the things that you want to grow and develop, and be patient with yourself. And if you can do these 4 things, you will be able to improve your life in ways that you never imagined possible. Now I have a question for you. What's the biggest obstacle that you face in paying attention? And I want you to answer this question in the comments below. I read all the comments that are left below my videos, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Well, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And if you haven't already subscribed, please do so. I post new videos every week. And remember, the brain is a beautiful organ. What do you think is the most exciting field in science today? Is it space exploration? Maybe that's searching for life on Mars or launching the first crewed missions to the moon. Perhaps it's medicine with the potential to eradicate deadly diseases like cancer and HIV. Or maybe it's artificial intelligence, which has seen some incredible breakthroughs in recent years. But if I had to choose one field that is pushing the boundaries of human knowledge right now, it would be neuroscience. There's no other field where progress is being made so quickly and which has the potential to revolutionize our lives in so many ways. Each week brings new discoveries about how the brain works, from restoring vision in blind people to controlling prosthetic limbs with our thoughts. But one of the most exciting areas of neuroscience right now is understanding consciousness. It's one of the biggest mysteries of the universe, arguably even more perplexing than the theory of everything or dark matter. And the recent news is that we may have just decoded the neural signature of consciousness itself, essentially a biological watermark which signifies whether or not someone is conscious or awake. In this video, we're going to look at what this means and why this discovery could revolutionize the future of AI. Let's jump in. The first thing to note here is that we don't actually know exactly what consciousness is or how to define it. But generally speaking, we can say that consciousness refers to mental states that. This is a big deal in neuroscience. This was published in Nature Neuroscience this week. It's a really interesting paper, so we're going to talk about it. Okay, so what are we talking about? We're talking about a new way to look at neural activity in the brain. Now, neural activity has been measured for a long time using electrodes and invasive techniques that measure electrical activity, or sometimes optical techniques like calcium imaging, where you're measuring changes in fluorescence in neurons. But these have 2 limitations. One is they're only looking at activity in a small part of the brain at one time, and they're not looking at the actual connection between the neurons. They're looking at activity in general. In 2019, there was another technique developed that was called neuropixels, and the idea here is that it's an electrode array that can sample activity from many locations in the brain simultaneously, while also sampling the activity of many individual units. This is a microelectrode array with 16 electrodes, and each electrode can record from many neurons, so you get a lot more information than other electrode arrays. And they've used this in mice, and they've looked at a lot of different things. They've looked at visual responses, they've looked at whisker responses, they've looked at motor activity. And one thing that I thought was really interesting about their publication is that they said they recorded spontaneous activity in the mouse brain with high resolution. Spontaneous activity is when the animal isn't doing anything. You're just letting the brain sit there, and you're looking at what